Hello and welcome to the live show here on Thursday with myself, Shane Stapleton, Paudie Maher in the middle there, and Michael Verney joining us also. How are the men?
Good now, Shane.
I tell you, fair half back line there now. We definitely have a good man in the middle. I'm not sure about the two boys in the wings, but we have a good man in the middle anyway.
You'll have to carry us, Paudie.
Jesus Christ. I don't know that anymore, lads.
Yeah, I don't know if we could get Verney to wear the blue and gold either. His hatred of Tipperary is shown regularly, Verney.
You wear the Offaly jersey. I consider wearing the Tip jersey.
Okay, well, the first 15 minutes of the show are available to everyone. After that, we'll be going to patreon.com/OurGame. We've loads of stuff to ask Paudie about. But I suppose the first thing, Paudie, to ask you about, I'm mad to know, how is the coffee shop going in Liberty Square in Thurles, Heyday Coffee?
Going well now, Shane, yeah. Thankfully enough, I suppose. Yeah, we had a few, wondering after Christmas there what way to go, and, COVID was rampant at the time and everything. But thankfully now we're happy enough, and we couldn't have asked for much more support, to be honest with you. And it's great, and everyone's getting out and about. And I suppose the square there has after been newly developed there recently as well. So, I can't wait to even see what it'll be like there now once the championship games come into Thurles there, because it's so accommodating now for people at the square, to kind of hang out, and if you're going for a pint or going for a coffee, whatever it is, so hopefully it'll be a good old buzz around, especially when the matches come back around.
Will you be in behind the counter for it? I was driving past Heyday there recently, and I was thinking, is that him in there? I saw like a skin fade going on, and I thought maybe that's hhim.
Yeah, I know we've been in and out, myself and Shamey, they've been out a bit as much as we can. Obviously we have our day jobs as well that we have to look after, number one. But, when we're off there, I'm off and I do the shift work with the guards. So my few days off, I try and be in around as much as I can, But we have great staff there as well. So, look, it's been well looked after. There's no fear of it anyway.
Yeah. So did you always have an interest in coffee, or was it the thing that, in the past GA players, because you have a bit of notoriety, you might open a pub and people would come in, and, that's something we've seen everywhere. Whereas these days there's probably, with drink driving and all that kind of stuff, is coffee now the thing for like GA players? Yeah,
look, I suppose we've a bit of interest in coffee ourselves. We were better lads to go out and start drinking coffee, wherever we were going, but yeah, we had a bit of an interest in it. And then, we always talked about doing something maybe down the line. And when COVID started, then we kind of put it in the back burner a bit. And then we seen other people kind of going along with the ideas and opening up places, all over the country, and we're kind of saying, look, is this going to be something we might regret? So we said here, we'll go ahead with it, and we'll see what we'll do. But thankfully, look, it's another little headache we probably didn't need as well. But look, it's a great experience, and to be honest, it's just a bit enjoyable there too. To something, to keep us interested. So look, and I suppose the way, as you said there, the way COVID hit and all, the pub kind of went to one side, and coffee and everything kind of came to the most popular social aspect of meeting people and that. So look, hopefully that stays going the way it's going, and we can keep it popular enough around the town anyway.
Yeah, Mike. Do you know the way you'd usually rank the best 5 hurlers in the country, or the best 5 hurlers in Tip? What's the ranking system for the best Tipperary hurlers coffee in Tipperary? Because I think there's yourself and Shamey, is it Dan McCormick as well, Paddy Cadell, I think Cottle Barrett as well. Is there a competition between you all to be the best coffee in Tipperary?
Not that I know of any, but we're well spread out around the towns in Tipperary, so we'll be hopeful we're not stepping on each other's toes anyway. To be fair, I think we've all sampled each other's coffee, and we've all been in and out of each other's places. So there's no kind of, I suppose, rivalry there really, in a way. I think we're supporting each other as best we can anyway.
When you get to the stage of the Munster Championship, are you going to be behind the counter? Let's say the first week that you're there. I'm trying to remember what's the first game. Is it maybe Clare coming to town? Are you going to be behind the counter on that Sunday and have all the supporters coming in chatting to you?
I might be there on the day, but I'll hopefully be up around the stadium when it's getting close to throw in. I'd nearly rather be outside the counter in some bar or something waiting to go into the stadium more than. But I know we'll be around, Jeannie. That it'll be, as I said to you at the start there, you'll be hoping it'll be back like it was 5-6 years ago, the atmosphere around Thurles with the games, and I think they have. Don't you have Cork and Clare and Thurles as well this year as well? So it's an extra game that they weren't expecting. So look, all the better for the town and the businesses. But hopefully it'll be a great buzz. I'll definitely be around for all of them anyway.
Yeah. Paudie, have you thought about what it's going to be like, just the different kind of dynamic, probably going to games now as a supporter now? Like, have you got your head around that yet? It's not the most easy thing to get your head around. I imagine it won't be until you land to some championship game that you'll first kind of realise what it's like.
Yeah, I suppose I've gone to a couple of games there already. You know, I've been to the Dublin game, the Kilkenny game, the league with Tipp, and I couldn't go last Sunday by watching the telly. But yeah, it's strange, all right. And you know, the games I was at there in Thurles, it's kind of like you're still involved, and you're kind of, you know, you're analysing as if you're still in the panel that you want to give back advice or whatever it is. But it's very strange, and I'd say even become championship, the biggest day of all. It'll be hard to take at the start, but you know, from just the experience and going to a few league games, you know, after a few minutes, the ball's in, you're as much a supporter as anyone else. So yeah, look, it's strange. There's no doubt about it. It's definitely strange at the moment, but hopefully with time, I just turn into a supporter as anyone else.
Is it nice to still have Ronan involved in that respect, that you're still kind of involved, you still have a vested interest? It's like having a brother hurling, I'd imagine, is like you're probably hurling every ball with him almost as well. It's almost like you're kind of still there in a way.
Yeah, you know, look, I suppose it's lucky, especially for my own family, that, you know, usually if someone leaves, that's kind of it. Like that's them taken away from the whole scene of, you know, the team over the last few years. But lucky enough, we've Ronan there still involved, you know, and hopefully for many more years to come. And, you know, he was made captain this year as well, you know, which is a great honour for him as well. So we still have great invested interest in it, and you know, which is great. I suppose it kind of makes me going, you know, that little bit kind of more seamless. That look, I'm gone now, but the younger lads taking up the reins. And look, we've great excitement here, as I said, being made captain this year. So hopefully it'll be a good year for them.
Yeah, we've a comment in here from Richard Hogan. New respect for Paudie as a Leeds supporter. Never thought I would say that as a Kilkenny man. How big into Leeds are you? And Bielsa's gone.
Yes, geez, I was a massive supporter of Leeds. You know, I have a great interest there. It was tough going there about 5-6 years ago when we were down in, I suppose, what you want to call the old Division 2 or the League 1 now. But yeah, no, great excitement there. And Jesus, they got rid of him there then the last week, you know, which I don't know is the best move. But yeah, I think they've brought great excitement to the Premiership, and hopefully it can stay up this year now and rebuild again. But yeah, I always get a fair abuse being a Leeds supporter, and also I've been told, oh, I'm too young to be a Leeds supporter as well. So I've been told as well. So, but yeah, no, great interest in them.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the Heyday Coffee Shop in Liberty Square in Thurles. Go in and support Paudie and Shamey in their lovely coffee shop. And to be fair, as you said, the square is actually looking really good in Tipperary. It's been turned upside down really, and it's looking well. So let's kind of talk about your thoughts on watching Tipperary so far this year. I don't think we're really going to count the game against Kerry in the Munster Hurling League. You know, that was very early depths of January, but, you know, there was a loss there. Then the win over Laois in torrid conditions, I thought there was some good signs. Kilkenny game, not the greatest spectacle, but always nice to get the victory there. Then losing at home to Dublin. And then most recently, I suppose, a pretty hefty defeat to Waterford, 128 to 21 points. What are your thoughts on, you know, I suppose you were in there a little bit towards the start, probably didn't do any training or anything like that, but what's your thoughts on Tipperary so far this year?
Yeah, I suppose that one of the main things, I suppose, for Tipperary supporters anyways, is patience, really. You know, there's a lot of change in there. I know you go from start with a new management team, new background team, everything has changed. Like, when it has changed over the last number of years when I involved, you know, we always had the same physios, you know, even S&C, you know, everybody involved. That was always someone, it was always a continuation. Now, I know Tommy is still there, but other than that, it's been a clear wipeout and a start from scratch. So, yeah, I suppose that point of view. And then there's a lot of new lads getting their chances now. And, you know, I suppose a bit of consistency there, that they're getting their chance day after day. Like, you know, usually before you might have got one game and you might have seen them for another 3 or 4 games, if even, you know. So there's a lot of change there, and they're trying new things. Like, I was watching the Kilkenny game, and even Kilkenny were the same day. Both teams were trying a new way of playing, I suppose, working the ball through the lines, getting lads behind the ball. You know, and it wasn't the greatest spectacle to watch. Even I found it frustrating, but I suppose I knew from where they were coming from and what they're trying to do. So I had that in the back of my head, whereas the people around me were moaning and groaning, and this isn't the way Tipp and Kilkenny should be, and that thing. But no, I think for me, it's about just patience. You know, let the lads get used to the new way of playing. You know, develop it. You know, this doesn't happen overnight. You can't click the fingers and say they're going to be unbelievable at this kind of thing, but they have to kind of work at it. And that's the way the game is going now. And while we all mightn't agree with that way of playing, it's the way it is. And if you want to be successful, if you want to beat the likes of Limerick or, a Galway or a Cork at the moment, you're going to have to kind of change your game a bit. And, so I think patience is the main thing for Tipperary supporters at the moment, and stick with them. And I think we always had great hurlers in Tipperary, and, once they get used to that way of playing, and that, I think their hurling will show that they're well capable of playing that kind of way.
Yeah, we talked the other day to Fergal Hartley, and he was talking about the athleticism of Waterford. He said he was watching them in the warm-up and their pace coming off the shoulder, playing those possession games when you warm up. He just said it was frightening, and that there was a marked contrast with how Tipperary were doing it at the time. Do you think that there's any sort of an athleticism deficit, or this is just something, it's an easy explanation as to why Tipperary aren't quite, playing as well as the other top teams at the moment?
I from watching the game last week, it looked like Waterford had way more energy on the pitch, but again, you have to think about Waterford in their third year, that cycle with Liam Cahill and them players and whatever way they're going to play. Cork are going to the year 2 or 3 now. Kieran Kingston, Limerick, obviously enough to everyone, are well developed at theirs at this stage. So, Tip are only getting used to this moment. So if they can get the grips and get the terms of what way they want to play, and players get confident in the positions and their roles on the field, I think you'll see a lot more energy in their game, and the confidence will start to grow. So that's why you'd be hoping they can just get a win against Antrim and start building towards the Waterford game again. But yeah, the game is gone fair athletic, isn't it? Take all the teams that have been prominent in the league so far. Athleticism and fitness and energy look to be very high at the moment. So yeah, look, there's a lot of demands on them, but as I said, I think you just need to be patient as a Tipperary supporter.
Well, what do you think? Is there any bottom line as to why Tipperary have, come up second best to Limerick in the last? I mean, even going back to 2018 and when MacLochlainn was still involved, I think they won by 6 points in the Gaelic grounds. What do you think it is about that has changed in the Tipperary Limerick dynamic?
Well, I suppose Limerick kind of changed their way of playing, didn't they? 18 and that, and I suppose straight up we probably struggled to come to terms with how to beat it, their style of play, because another year before that, I know they caught us once or twice, but we were well capable of getting over Limerick over them years. But just the way they changed the style of play in 18, kind of Tip have struggled with it now. We managed to beat them in 19. They were missing 1 or 2 players, but I think we worked very hard that day, and it's just, I suppose, consistency of keeping that work rate high. And I suppose Tip showed it last year in the Munster final, the first half. If they can keep them standards high in the levels and work hard and stick to what the plan was, that we could be beaten them. But again, it wasn't consistent enough over the full hour. So I think Tip have just struggled with Limerick's style of play over the last few years, and I suppose a lot of teams have, in fairness, in the last 2 or 3 years. So again, it's up to someone to come up with a style of play of trying to beat them, the likes of Limerick.
Can you just talk to me, Paudie, about what it is actually like coming up against Limerick? You've played in the half back line against them. You've played in the full back line against them. Is it a bit of a whirlwind? Everything seems to be moving at an unbelievable speed. Even the passing is so crisp. If you're playing at wing back, you're tracking a lad. If you track them the whole time, you could end up, God knows where you could end up. You can nearly end up in the far 21. I'd imagine it's very challenging and very different probably than Anthony would have experienced before that in your career.
Yeah, I suppose that's the way. Even I think Cork are very similar as well the last year or two. As you said there, if you play in the half, I played in the half back line against them, and if you leave your man go back down the field, well, then they're only going to start creating overlaps. Short passes, the hand passing, and then they'll deliver when the time is right. Almost perfect ball to their, whether it's Aaron Gillan or Seamus Flanagan, whoever. If you go with your man, then you're leaving an absolute acre of space behind you, and the ball, any quick ball into a forward there is just impossible to defend. And I would have seen the other side of it too then last year in the full back line. Definitely the change I would have seen there, I suppose it would have been more than 10 years ago since I played in the full back line for last year. And, before you would have had a chance, the ball just come in so quick that you just been able to read it. But now the ball has been pinpointed exactly for when the forward makes the right run. So, unless there's that pressure coming out the field, you're fairly screwed inside. And they're a massive change. I think Limerick are just very good at having a lot of patience out the field. they won't hit the ball for the sake of hitting it unless they have to get out of the danger area, and they'll work the ball through the lines. They'll work it over and back if they have to 2 or 3 times. Mightn't look great, but the forward, there's a fair chance the forward's going to get the ball that he wants to get. And that's why they rack up so many scores. Like, they're scoring over 30 points there nearly every game, like, because they're happy enough to keep the scoreboard ticking over, and if the goal chances come, they'll take them. But yeah, they do make you think a lot on the pitch, and I suppose that comes back to their coaching, and I suppose Paul Kinnerk is massive to that, isn't he? Like,
just something you said about playing in the full back line, Paudie. The last time you played there was generally 3 lads in the full back line, and you were parked on the edge of the square, and there was ball coming in, and it was old school. Now it's like you're a full back, but you're essentially, you have to be a really mobile cornerback now as well. I'd imagine that was totally alien. Like they're poles apart from what you were used to back, we'll say in 09, 10, around that time.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it's unbelievable. Like 09, 10, when I was playing full back, there was a fair chance the corner forward and the corner back either side of you were going to be beside you, and the ball was coming in high, low, whatever it was, and you fight with your man for the ball, and it was just a matter of getting it out there. And the game changed massively then over the years that, now, like, I don't even think you necessarily need a fullback in the game anymore, to be honest with you, because there's probably only going to be one and one or 2 and 2 inside, and you have to be able to cover over and back. Like people say about big fullbacks and a presence, like that was because it was high direct ball coming in and you had to be able to win it and mind the square. But I think the game has changed so much now that even my experience last year, take the Munster final there, for instance, I think it could have been only myself and Barrett and whoever he was marking, Glenn or whoever, and myself and Shamie Flanagan inside, and we'd hold 50 yards of space either side of us in Páirc Uí Chaoimh and probably another 50 yards out ahead of us, so you have to be able to read it, adapt, I suppose take risks back there, like, and as I said, that compared to 10 years ago, maybe you only had a box of 20 by 20 to cover because your man was more likely to go and stay in the same position as you. So again, that's just the way the game has gone, the way you've adapted, and I suppose, the way the game has progressed, but it's a lot different. Jesus, it's a lot different to 10, 12 years ago.
Oh, definitely
I prefer 10, 12 years ago.
Wouldn't we all, apart from unless you're an inside forward.
Yeah, well, look,
exactly.
It's been great. It's been great stuff so far. If you want to watch the rest of the show, tune into patreon.com/OurGame. We'll be continuing the chat there.